Superhuman abilities are a staple in the Marvel Universe, especially for superheroes. Among these, healing abilities stand out. Characters with the power to heal quickly aren't just cool, they're pivotal in ramping up their strength in the comics and elevating one's game. The X-Men universe is packed with characters who have this awesome ability to heal super fast. Though it's your everyday regular power in the comics, it makes a considerable difference. So in this video, we are looking at 12 characters from X-Men universe with OP's overpowered healing abilities. So without further ado, let's dive in head on. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. Wolverine. When we think of superheroes with healing powers, Wolverine, aka Logan, is probably the first name that strikes our mind. No doubt, his adamantium claws are notable, but it's his healing factors that make him one of the real MVPs. This mutant power lets him come back from absolutely anything. Wounds, diseases, toxins, and everything under the sun. Though his body can naturally fix up damaged tissues and organs way faster than any normal human, he feels every ounce of pain. Wolverine discovered this strength in the 1800s when he was young. Since then, his healing power has kept him seemingly ageless and close to immortal. The extent of Wolverine's healing is exceptional, as he once regenerated his entire body from merely a drop of blood. However, his healing speed isn't always consistent, especially after he lost his adamantium and faced off with Laser, the Angel of Death. Governments have been after Wolverine for his healing factor, wanting to poke and prod for experiments, and despite some vicious face-offs, getting torn in half by Hulk, having his face ripped off, and even having his adamantium skeleton yanked out by Magneto, Wolverine always comes back. What makes Wolverine stand out though is not entirely his healing or his claw, it's his grit, his unyielding spirit, and his loyalty to Charles Xavier, aka Professor X's vision. Wolverine is more than solely an X-Man, he's the team's backbone. In fact, in the final issue of Predator vs. Wolverine, he got obliterated but came back to his form after a few days. We've made deep dive videos on all the issues, and I suggest you check it out if you're a fan of either of these magnificent characters. Lady Deathstrike. Eureka Oyama, aka Lady Deathstrike, a cyborg assassin with adamantium claws, was the daughter of Lord Darkwind, an unhinged kingpin and the brain behind the process of bonding adamantium to bones. After putting an end to her father's madness, she got fixated on Wolverine because she believed he had dishonored her family's honor with his adamantium. To exact her vengeance, she gave up her humanity and struck a dirty deal with Spiral, a sorceress who turned her into an adamantium skeleton cyborg assassin. Initially, it was assumed that she must have a healing factor to survive this transformation, but it was all Spiral's magic. Although her cyborg body did have a sort of cybernetic healing factor, it was a fancy self-repair and regeneration program that worked on her cybernetic and organic parts. Deadpool. Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, is a unique character in the superhero world, courtesy of his super healing powers. Joining Weapon X for a cancer cure, he got more than he bargained for. Originally, Wilson joined the program hoping to cure his 34 inoperable tumors. They tried to mimic Wolverine's healing factor on him, but things didn't really go in his favor. He was kicked out of Weapon X and sent to a hospice, a government facility where failed superhuman operatives were treated. Deadpool did not have a great time there. Ajax, the guy running the show there, ripped out his heart, but Wilson's thirst for revenge was so strong that it rebooted his healing factor, bringing his heart back, but leaving his body scarred for life, hence the mask. However, this new ability lets him regenerate any damaged or lost body parts super fast. He can fix up any injury and even reattach his head, but the healing factor can't completely cure his cancer. If his healing power comes across as that of every other superhero out there, let me tell you, the Deadpool has even staged a comeback from being totally burned or beheaded, but his power only kicks in when he's awake and mentally stable. Deadpool's healing isn't simply about him stitching himself back together. It also prevents him from aging, which essentially grants him an infinite lifespan. It makes him immune to diseases, infections, drugs, toxins, and even extreme elements. Also, small doses of his blood can heal others, extend their lifespans, and even bestow immortality. So, Deadpool has this incredible healing factor, but with enough quirks to keep things interesting. Sabertooth. Victor Creed, aka Sabertooth, had a rocky start in life. As a kid, when his mutation kicked in, he accidentally killed his brother over something as trivial as pie. His dad, thinking he was dealing with demons, locked Victor up in the cellar and tried to cure him by pulling out his sharp teeth. However, one day, Victor will have had enough. He chomped off his own hand to escape and ended up killing his dad. His mom also met a grim end later on. Once he was out, Victor didn't exactly blend into society. He gutted a man, larger and heavier than him, from the crotch to Adam's apple with his claws. Victor then learned that his brother was killed by a guy named Logan, aka Wolverine. He becomes Sabertooth and goes after Logan. Oh, and despite what X-Men movies might want you to believe, these two are not brothers. During their scrap, Sabertooth loses a hand but reattaches it right back on due to his healing factor. Speaking of healing, Sabertooth's got this natural ability to heal super fast, and it's not even because of Weapon X experiments. His healing factor was always there, but after some Weapon X upgrades, he was almost as tough as Wolverine. He can heal pretty much anything. Gunshots, severe burns, broken bones, but the downside to it is that he can feel the pain of his wounds or his body regenerating itself. Sabertooth's healing power also makes him immune to most poisons, viruses, and diseases, and slows down his aging. His natural, supercharged healing factor makes him lethal and nearly an immortal foe. Alexi. Josh Foley had quite the journey discovering his mutant powers. Additionally, he was part of the Reavers, a group not exactly fond of mutants. But it turns out Josh was a mutant himself with healing powers no less, which he discovered after healing a fellow Reaver. Once his crew and family ditched him for being a mutant, he had no choice but to head to the Xavier Institute. Things looked a little better at the Institute for Josh, and he made some mutant friends. But he soon backed off when they got wind of his Reaver past. Josh was then hit with a second mutation, turning his skin yellow. Following that, Josh was given the codename Alexi. He started with basic healing stuff, fixing broken bones and severe burns, and even patching up a fatal chest stab. He soon figured out he could do more than simply heal and could do harm by rearranging cells. This control over his cellular structure makes him immortal, as he can heal and bring himself back from the dead. Thus, Alexi is destructible, and there's not much that he can't fix with his powers. Angel. Warren Worthington III, aka Angel and later Archangel, is a mutant with a backstory that's pretty dreary. Originally, he started out with his majestic wings, straight up Angel style, which let him rush through the skies. He's out there playing hero and executing his vigilante acts when Professor X recruited him for the OG X-Men squad. Things were pretty fine for a while, but Angel bowed out of the X-Men when he felt Xavier's dream was getting lost in the mix with some aggressive new mutants showing up. Soon he encountered his own dark side, losing his angelic wings in the process. After losing his wings, Angel gets hit with a secondary mutation, making him even more powerful. But exactly when he was vulnerable, Apocalypse, the big bad eternal mutant, stepped in and gave him these metallic wings that were basically lethal weapons, turning him into Archangel, one of his horsemen, the strike force of the tyrant mutant. Despite turning into a sort of mutant Grim Reaper, Archangel finds his way back to the good side and joins X-Factor, the group of the original members of X-Men. The transformation left some deep scars though. Slowly but surely, he starts to turn things around, helping out in the corporate world with the X Corporation, focusing on mutant rights. Warren's powers evolved from flying to having a healing factor, which might be from his possible Che-Raphim ancestry, his secondary mutation, or Apocalypse's meddling. Plus, his wings are like his own personal phoenix. They keep coming back no matter what happens to them. At least, that's what happens in the comics. Mystique. Mystique, originally known as Raven Darkholme, is a shape-shifting mutant enigma with a backstory shrouded in mystery. She's been kicking around for way over a century, thanks to her shape-shifting powers that also dial back the aging clock. Her powers kicked in when she was only 12, and life's been a battle ever since. She got her moniker Mystique while teaming up with Irene Adler, aka Destiny, her future wife, to crack some cryptic mutant prophecies. Mystique's life has been anything but simple. The loss of Destiny hit her hard, but she stayed majorly influential in mutant history. She's been both a questionable ally and a key figure, shaping events like transforming her foster daughter Rogue into a superhero, taking down the gene scientist Mr. Sinister, and running a mutant-led criminal empire. Now, if you only know Mystique from movies like X-Men First Class, you barely know a part of the big picture. In the comics, she's been around for a century thanks to her shape-shifting that slows her aging. But that's not all. Mystique can heal injuries, regrow limbs, and even cheat death, and she can even shuffle her organs to dodge damage. So yeah, Mystique is way more than meets the eye. Juggernaut. Cain Marco, aka Juggernaut, has a story that's as massive as his powers. Growing up, life dealt him a rough hand. He faced abuse from his alcoholic dad, while his stepbrother, Charles Xavier, got the good life. This brewed a deep-seated grudge in Cain against Xavier. However, Cain's life took a drastic turn when he came into possession of some mystical powers from the Crimson Gem of Sidorak. This gem bestowed him with insane strength and invulnerability, making him almost unstoppable, with his mind being his only weak spot. Juggernaut's got a healing factor that is a little upgraded. It's not only about being tough, he heals super fast, making Deadpool and Wolverine's abilities basic. Take the time in Spider-Man number 16 when Shatterstar got lucky and managed to poke out one of Juggernaut's eyes. For most, that's game over, but Juggernaut was back in action as soon as he wiped off the blood. In Juggernaut number 1, Juggernaut was flayed to the bone by Despair, yet he still came back. His enchanted healing factor had him back on his feet, freaking out the fearful entity that had taken him down. While Deadpool and Wolverine have their healing fame, Juggernaut is in a league of his own. Even in Deadpool 2, Juggernaut takes an eye injury like it's nothing. The movie left his fate open, leaving the door open for a comeback, and with his crazy healing, he might quite pop up again in the sequel. X-23. Lauren Kinney, better known as X-23, has one heck of a story. She was originally created by the Weapon X project to be a clone of Wolverine, but the DNA they had was damaged, so Sarah Kinney, the leading scientist, added her own DNA into the mix and ended up being Laura's surrogate mom. Growing up, X-23's life was far from normal. She was raised to be a living weapon right from the get-go until she broke free. She broke free from Weapon X's clutches, determined to shut down the whole weaponized mutant mission, and wanted to take out Wolverine, thinking it would end the cycle of violence. But Wolverine saw her as a victim, not the enemy, and took her under his wing at the Xavier Institute. Since then, X-23 has really made a name for herself. She's been part of the X-Men's training group, the X-Force Squad, studied at Avengers Academy, and even joined a couple of X-Men teams. Her healing factor is almost on par with Wolverine's. She can heal from brutal injuries like gunshots, slashes, and punctures in only a few minutes. She can even reattach a severed hand or regrow a whole arm. Battle wounds vanish fast, but self-inflicted ones linger a bit longer. Healing seems to be tied to her mental state. X-23 also got immunity to most poisons and drugs because of her healing powers. And like Wolverine, she's likely to have a slowed aging process, giving her a longer than normal lifespan. X-23 is not altogether only Wolverine's clone, she's her own person in the mutant world, and she stands out.
What are you doing?
What Raven would have.
Beast. Henry Hank McCoy, aka Beast, has quite a fascinating origin story. His father worked at a nuclear plant and caught a heavy dose of radiation which didn't hurt him but tweaked his genes. So when Hank was born, he was already showing mutant traits, oversized hands and feet, plus a mix of super strength and agility. However, Hank was not only about muscle, he was a brainiac too. As a teenager, his powers amped up, giving him some serious agility, reflexes, and strength. He joined the X-Men as one of the first students under Professor X, fighting for mutant-human peace. Working as a gene scientist, he made this serum that altered his appearance. He ended up with gray fur, pointy ears, fangs, and claws. It also amplified his agility, endurance, strength, senses, and healing. Beast's healing factor is excellent, though not as good as Wolverine's. He can shake off a bad cold or fever in a few hours and heal broken bones way faster than most. Although his body can't regrow lost organs or limbs, his immune system is like a fortress, making him tough against sickness and even certain poisons. And this blue fur is not just for show. It keeps him warm in freezing temps, and his healing abilities mean he ages slower than most. So, Hank McCoy, our blue, furry, super smart, super strong mutant, is not a mere beast in name, but also in nature. Mr. Sinister. Dr. Nathaniel Essex was a Victorian-era brainiac who was deep into evolutionary theories and even foresaw mutants showing up. This caught the eye of Apocalypse, a mega-mutant who turned Essex into Mr. Sinister, his top henchman. Post-transformation, Essex went from regular human to superhuman with a healing factor that basically stopped his aging. But then, he dabbed with Career's DNA. Career, a shapeshifter with total control over their cells, gave Sinister some serious upgrades. Once he incorporated Career's DNA, Sinister got shapeshifting and regenerating powers, making him barely shy of being invincible. He didn't even need his brain or organs to keep going. He's been blasted in half and shot in the head, but brushed them off. Sinister's healing factor is something else. He can fix major injuries like gunshot wounds, slashes, and burns in a blink. So, Mr. Sinister is not at all your average villain. He's a shape-shifting, nearly unkillable live wire in the mutant world. Feral. Maria Calasantos, known in the mutant world as Feral, had a troubled life. Growing up in poverty and facing abuse, she struggled with intense emotional turmoil and rage. By the time her mutation fully hit, she was already on the run, having taken some lives and found a home in the sewers with the Morlocks, an underground mutant community. Feral's mutation turned her into something like a cat-like creature. She was like a human-cat hybrid with Wolverine-like traits, enhanced senses, crazy agility, and a cat-like look with claws, fangs, and even a prehensile tail. Her healing factor is pretty decent too. She can patch up injuries way faster than a regular human. Injuries such as broken bones take about a few days to completely heal. But compared to big league healers like Wolverine or Sabertooth, she's not quite in the same ballpark. And it's a bit of a mystery how she'd fare with really serious injuries. Feral is not any other mutant. She has some serious feline powers, topped off with a quick fix healing factor. Marvelous verdict. Alright, let's wrap up the X-Men universe's top healers. These characters can rally back from anything instantly, keeping the action going non-stop. They're always ready for the next round, no matter how tough it is out there. They're the ones who can come back from the verge, and when they combine healing with offensive powers, they're nearly invincible. But when the villains pack this healing power, they become more savage and threatening. When it comes to healing factors, a few mutants stand out. Topping the list would be Wolverine. No contest. His healing abilities are legendary, and he can recover completely from any injury. Then there is Deadpool. His healing factor is similar to Wolverine's, but with a more unpredictable edge. Sabertooth, Wolverine's nemesis, has a healing factor that's almost on par with Wolverine, keeping him in the fight even after serious beatings. Mr. Sinister is another name worth mentioning in the healing department, thanks to some genetic tinkering. He's practically indestructible, regenerating from the worst kinds of damage. While Feral may not be at the top tier like the others, her healing is still impressive, especially for mending moderate injuries quickly. These mutants are the top dogs, or cats in Feral's case, when it comes to healing in the X-Men world. They're the mutants you'd have a hard time keeping down, each with their own flavor of rapid recovery, returning from the brink, and making them tough to beat in any battle. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.